Hello, this is Sparkles of Gold. Welcome to the channel. Today, tonight, however you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, I'm going to talk about the solar eclipse that happens here on April 30th. You're seeing the chart up on the screen right now, right up there. It happens here at 10 degrees Taurus. It's a new moon in Taurus. Great, right? You know what? In my opinion, this is a very hardcore transit, and that brings transitions and also focuses on illusions or the truth. So what I want to do is actually go back. Here's the eclipse chart. It's April 30th here on Pacific time, 1:28 when it happens. But I actually want to go back to the day before. You're seeing two charts up on the screen right here, right now, and I'm going to go back to here. This is Friday. This is the day before. Right around this time here on 3:36, Mercury leaves Taurus and goes into Gemini, which is setting up a story here because Mercury in Gemini is going to be retrograde here soon. The other thing I want you to look at and notice here is Pluto. Several hours, it's got to be 3 or 4 hours before this time at 3:36, Pluto, you see a red number here, goes retrograde. Retrograde means from the appearance of Earth, like the planet's stopping and going backwards, even though it's not really doing that. But this is fundamental here because whenever Pluto goes retrograde, it's the slowest moving planet out of the planets we deal with in astrology. So whatever it does and how it works is on a deeper, slow moving, at times psychological, if you think in a psychological way, subconscious level. But whenever it stops, moves forward, it goes backwards, or it's tied into anything astrologically by degree or aspect, it's a fundamental force. And its role is to bring whatever truth, what is the ultimate truth, to the surface in many different forms and in many different ways. The other part of this is it's an eliminator, and it wants to eliminate or take care of things or get purge things that are not working or are poisonous, that have become stagnant. And a lot of those things can happen under the surface, and they only come up at certain times. Well, these are one of the times where it comes up. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is it's so close, less than 24 hours from a new moon in Taurus and a major eclipse. So this is fundamentally part of the story. And at the degrees that it's at here in 28 Capricorn, these degrees from 23, 24 Capricorn to 28 have been a big part of the last year, and were part of everything the last 6 months. And from 6 months ago, the eclipses that happened in Taurus and Scorpio were connected to this closeness of degree, because those happened at 27. This has happened at 28. A lot of the lunations and full moons and new moons that we've had in the last 6 months have been around this degree area. Pluto was involved in the last full moon and in the new moon, and so on and so forth. The Venus retrograde that we had in Capricorn in the wintertime, and then it took forever to get through winter and spring, was connected to this. Mars in Capricorn was connected to this. There's so many poignant moments of this where Pluto's been involved in a lot of the transits, okay? So here, it's involved with what happens the next day, which is the solar eclipse that happens in Taurus at 10 degrees. Some people who are modern astrologers say Pluto's involved with the Scorpio archetype. The traditionalists are going to say Mars rules Scorpio. I'm in that world. But Pluto's involved in this story. It's involved here too, and I'll show you in a second. But here's the new moon at 10 degrees Taurus. You have anything in fixed signs. If you have anything in Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius within these, close to these degrees, and if you don't know that, you can always hit me up, privately. I'll show you your chart for free. You can see that. But if you know a little bit about astrology, you'll know, especially if you're a Taurus and a Scorpio, that you're deeply affected by this new moon and this eclipse. And it's connected to the eclipses 6 months ago. It'll be connected to the full moon that happens 2 weeks from now in Scorpio, which that's another eclipse. And it's connected to 6 months from now when the eclipses happen again. It even goes back to 2003, 2004. You can go back. Whatever the case is, 10 degrees here. If you have any planets or anything in fixed signs or in Taurus and Scorpio at this, you are directly connected to this. And we always look to the ruler of lunations, full moons, new moons, and Taurus, ruled by Venus, is here in Pisces at 27 degrees, and it's also with Jupiter 27. If you've been paying attention and you're into astrology and you've been watching things, you see these posts coming up on your feed and stuff, you'll know that the week before this eclipse has been the most Piscean time in 100 years. We haven't had this kind of combination where Moon, Mars, Neptune, Venus, Jupiter have all been together. They were just together several days before this eclipse. Venus and Jupiter having their conjunction, they're having it in this moment, but they've had it for several days. Venus crossed over with Neptune earlier in the week, or before that. The moon was there, so it was Piscean dreamland, idealism, what's real, what's not, the higher ideal, the higher love, romance in the sense like the most like romantic, dreamy romance type of scenarios you could think of. Maybe some of you have had that. The other parts of it is delusion, fantasy, fog, and dissolvedness. Pisces doesn't have boundaries, doesn't deal with boundaries very well. It's accentuated and magnified by Jupiter here. It has more diluted qualities because of Neptune. So there could be many people out there who have been in a certain type of situation where things seem transcendent, amazing, miracle-like. And I'm not saying those things don't happen, but the reality is this kind of thing doesn't last long. If it's used in a way concretely on a personal level where ideas and something that's been inspired by dreams or creativeness or something from beyond you, and it comes and enters your world, and it could be dealt with. Dreams are very fundamental to all this, but there's the carried away feeling of this type of combination. And when Pisces they don't deal with boundaries and it's magnified and there's no container, then things don't last. And also water permeates things, and the shadow side of a transit like this is self-identifying with something outside of you, in a sense losing yourself to something, a person, a relationship, or so on and so forth. And it could seem real, but it doesn't last long, or it's not real. Again, I think with something like this, it being the ruler of this new moon, it's great on paper because water and earth flow together. They're sextiling each other here, right? That's great. They're 60 degrees away from each other. But the fact that this is an eclipse in a sense, the light is getting, the light's getting sucked out. It disappears. There's no light. So this isn't, in my opinion, an easy time. And the fact that the nodes, they're part of the eclipses here, the North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, they've been part of the story here because they're both, Taurus is ruled by Venus, Scorpio is ruled by Mars. They've been part of every lunation, almost all these lunations that have been happening this year. So it's been a Venus-Mars story. And we're at the next step. But we must remember with eclipses, it has to do with the cutting off of energy or a muting of energy, and it has to do with change. How the change happens, depends on the person, but if you are a Taurus or a Scorpio especially, and you have planets at these degrees, you have them at 10, close to that, even 14, 15, or you're at 22 degrees, 28 even. I'm saying that because of Pluto. 28 even earlier in the year. You can go back to the eclipses that happened 6 months ago that was at 27 degrees. There is a ending and beginning type of feeling to things that are happening here. And I don't personally think it's easy. It might feel liberating in some sense for some people, or eventually will feel liberating. But since Pluto, the night before station retrograde, it's the ultimate reality check. I don't care how nice or how romantic or whatever Venus, Jupiter, Neptune is in part of this, because it's part of it, but Pluto brings the ultimate truth. And the truth that it brings is truth that has been hidden, secretive, festering under the surface. And it's a major reality corrector. Saturn traditionally brings the reality, but Pluto deals with it in a whole different way. And there's an elimination quality to all this. So I'm basically saying this isn't easy. This isn't an easy, it's a volatile new moon. Eclipses are volatile, I think, in general, but it is not a time to be springing forth typically that you would do in a new moon. You have to be very careful with this. You have to really take your time, and I'm recommending in an eclipse way that you kind of corral yourself and put yourself in a protective place and wait things out. A couple days, as soon as the eclipse is over, you start to walk away from that. But remember, 2 weeks from this time, you have the full moon that's connected to this, and it's another eclipse in Scorpio. So the Scorpio Taurus story is again on stage here. I recommend touching and being in what's tangible, what is real in your world, and everything else that might be giving you fear, anxiety, nervousness. That's something that has to be dealt with. I'm even going to say that if you've had some things happen recently, especially in the 2 weeks before leading to this, that have come into your world and seem amazing and inspiring, I would take a step back from that and really see what part of it is actually that and what part of it is real or not. Because a lot of that, because of this Piscean work that's been happening, is much of it is not real. You have to take something from there and make it real. You feel me? So this is my opinion on this eclipse. There's a lot more to the story because Mercury just goes into Gemini. It's going to be part of a retrograde thing happening soon. It's going to be connected to the eclipse that happens in 2 weeks after this. But again, in the end, this is Pluto work. If you've been watching my videos for the last 6 months, whenever I put them up, Pluto's been a big part of this. And I've always liked to talk about being real and being honest in situations with astrology and in your world, and looking at yourself and confronting yourself when things come up. And when Pluto's involved, it comes up at certain times, and there are power plays involved and power struggles and secrets and power manipulation involved in here. And you have to look at yourself and ask yourself on the truest levels if you have been honest with yourself and been doing the work when it comes to the way you function in the world, the way you've been functioning in relationships, because Mars and Venus have been pretty much the story here the last 6 months. And have you been honest with yourself and you've been honest with others? Pluto has a tendency, or not a tendency, it just does. It reveals the truth. So if you haven't been standing in that truth, or you've been hiding something, or you've been manipulating something, or if being manipulated, is all going to come out. There's a lot of surprises here with this, and this is why I named the video "What Comes Around Goes Around," because there's no way out of a Pluto story. You're confronted with something that is hard to let go a lot of the times. It's a certain type of truth. If you have the tools to help you go through that process, it's good. But one of the main tools is honesty Have you been honest with yourself? And have you really been honest with other people? Have you been playing a game, or have you been real? And Pluto and this eclipse with Uranus right there to shake things up is one of the biggest reality checks of the year. And if you've been doing the work, and if you've been standing in truth and honor, it'll be good. If not, I'm just saying it's hard, and there's a reckoning involved. And even if you don't catch it here, because if you have planets close to this degree, you'll see it immediately. But with eclipses, it can be 2 weeks later, 3-4 months later, 6 months later when the next eclipses come. There's no way out of the story. So think about that. If you're watching this, think about how you deal with the things I mentioned about power plays, manipulation, and truth, and with real and what's not. I feel for you if some of you are struggling right now. A lot of people, I actually, from my notes in the field, and I've actually had a lot of client work in the last 2 to 3 weeks. That's why I haven't done any videos. I've had other projects going on, and I've been very closed in and secretive. But I'll tell you, this Pisces transit stuff isn't all candy. And, to the point where there's a lot of confusion and anxiety because of this. So it hasn't been well for a lot of people I know, clients and even other astrologers that I've talked to. You've seen a lot of promo and hype about this, but it can only do this kind of thing so long. Soon you're going to have a lot of planets in Aries, and they're going to bring reality in there too, and they're going to touch upon Chiron and Aries, and that's for another video, and that's some other stuff that we all have to deal with. But in the end, I just hope what you got something from all this. Kind of back. I'll be putting out videos again. If you like this, please subscribe. I don't want go to my website, sparklesofgold.com. I also do a podcast. I'll be doing more videos. I've been working on other stuff here secretly behind the scenes, and hopefully be having some stuff pushed out here soon and be back on my social media, so on and so forth. For everybody who supported me, who've given me private comments and wondered where I've been, I'm surprised, and I want to thank you. I've been in my own underworld. And what I will tell you is there's a quote that always stands, and I've been telling myself. He's an old coach, and he says, never underestimate the heart of a champion. And that's me. I'm a motherfucking champion. I'll be doing some more videos soon. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.